Well, yeah, good Shabbos, everyone, or good Erev Shabbos, everyone. It's been a while, and here we are. We're back together, and I'm so happy to be able to be with you and share some thoughts before Shabbos. Before we continue our regular announcements, I may be a little bit rusty, but yeah, here we go. That you can get all the recordings of the classes that we will start again to resume now at jewishcenter.info/Rabbi Shem Tov. And I want to discuss with you just for a brief moment that we are preparing so much for the upcoming festival of Pesach. Our website will be up by Monday. We have a lot of interesting services to offer so that you can make your Seder at home, either a matzah, a Seder kit, an entire menu, or one of my favorite projects that we're introducing this year, which is a Seder project, where people can either volunteer or let us know confidentially people who can't afford a Seder, and we will have it delivered to their house. So if you go on jewishcenter.info on Monday, you'll find out all the information that we have to be able to service you for this great holiday. So, my dear friends, it is almost Shabbos again. And the fact that Shabbos is coming in a little later gives me a little bit more opportunity to be able to be with you. So it is a very, very exciting time on the Jewish calendar. We just had Purim a week ago. As you hear, we're full force ahead in preparing for Pesach, two wonderful and great holidays. And the most important thing when we observe our tradition is not just to observe something and move on. Purim was, Passover will be, now we're kind of in the middle. Our traditions really give us insight. They're deep, they're spiritual, and they're things that bring out within us certain tendencies, positive spiritual tendencies that need to grow on us. So the fact that Purim was last week doesn't mean that Purim is over. The fact that Passover is in 3 weeks, roughly, doesn't mean we wait till then. These are spiritual exercises and activities that I hope to share with you today to be able to channel and bring the energy of this special time of the year as we prepare from spring, getting out of winter, hopefully globally as we're kind of slowly emerging out of the darkness of the past year. How do we absorb this message and make it into something really strong and powerful? And of course, we have this week's Parsha, the Torah portion, the timeless teachings that are very timely. So let me start with a joke that I've shared with you in the past, certainly when we were having in-person services. This young woman is dating a boy, and she falls in love with this boy and would like to marry him. And she would like her father to meet him. Father is a loving dad. I said, sure, let me meet the guy. Let's call him Mike. Mike comes home, comes to see his prospective father-in-law. And, the father-in-law says, let me have a chat with you. And he takes him into his office and says, Mike, you look like a very fine man, but how do you plan to earn a living? Mike says, God will provide. Don't worry. Says, I know God will provide, but soon you're going to have children. How are you going to raise a child? Kid says, God will provide. And how about education and trips and vacations for a growing family? Mike says, God will provide. All right. Father-in-law, who was a very wealthy man, walks out to his daughter, brings her aside. Listen, she said, I love this guy. He said, really? You love him? Says, yeah, because he has very little ambition. He has very little drive. And he already thinks I'm God. Many times we talk about God, we talk about faith, we talk about the spiritual ideas of Judaism, and we kind of misuse the words, or maybe misunderstand the words, or really don't understand thoroughly what is God, what is faith, what is a mitzvah, what is a Jew. I had this very enlightening conversation this morning, which is what really prompted me for the title of this sermon. What type of Jew are you? What kind of Jew are you? And very wonderful, warm guy And he tells me, I'm Jewish. I feel so Jewish. I love Yiddishkeit, but I'm an agnostic. And he was kind of saying that as a struggle he was having. He doesn't know exactly how he interacts with God, but he's Jewish and he feels connected. And my dear friends, it's the same thing. Faith and connection to God and connected to Judaism is really the same thing, as we'll soon see. But because we use these kind of terms very, I won't say wrong, but just very, very basic, it sometimes feels like I'm a Jew, but I'm agnostic. I don't believe in God, but I love being Jewish. How does that go together? And it does go together. And let's talk about that for a moment. Because I think faith has become a very important issue over the last year to many people. Maybe they haven't become believers, but everyone was challenging, what do they believe in? What in fact makes up faith? What should you believe in? When it's all the things that you did believe in and all the things that you thought were real kind of fall apart, what remains? And people were exposed to that very raw feeling. I see it in so many Facebook posts and social media posts and conversations and dialogues that I've had with people, that people know there's this concept of faith, but just don't know what it is. And therefore, that even makes you more uncomfortable. An agnostic is not an atheist. An atheist says, I don't believe in God. An agnostic, look it up in the dictionary, doesn't not believe and believe. It's kind of, you don't know where you are because you feel that connection, but you don't know how to define it. So as I mentioned before, our faith, our tradition, our culture is not just hamantash on Yom Kippur and brisket on Pesach and the going to shul tomorrow, if you do go, or reading it at home, reading the portion. All these things are very important components. And the fact that Purim comes right before Passover, so close together, the fact that in between we're reading this portion gives us a tremendous, tremendous opportunity to define for ourselves what kind of Jews we are. And there's nothing wrong. There are different kinds of Jews. And the question is, if you're able to define what you are, how you connect to Judaism, that's great, because now you know what you have and what you have to grow into. So let's talk about a very strange story in this week's portion of the Torah that we read. It's very, very strange. It's a very famous story. It was a historic story. It has a story that had such historic proportion even to today. And in this week's portion is the story of the golden calf. 40 days after the Jewish people were wedded, so to speak, to God, they witnessed God. They saw the greatest revelation of all times. God spoke to them. Can you imagine God speaking to you? It's real. You see the reality of God. 40 days later, they build an idol, which is the greatest violation of the relationship with God. It's like you just got married. You're on a honeymoon and you're having an affair right under your wife's nose. It's just so bizarre. The Jewish people, if any people in history would be able to say, we saw God, this is real. There's no doubt that God exists. The miracle of the 10 plagues, the Exodus, the splitting of the sea, revelation. How could they go 40 days later and just serve an idol? Say you don't want to be involved, but to have faith in an idol after you know what the real thing is, it's like experiencing the real thing. You have a real drink, a real piece of steak, a real whatever it is, and then you say, no, I just want the substitute. Something is off here. Why would they replace the ability to have a relationship with the Creator, with God himself or herself, with an idol? And what kind of idol? A calf, a little cow, not even a cow, but a calf. What's the story of the golden calf? What went wrong? And when we'll understand what went wrong, we'll realize that, you know what? We go through the same thing. We also build our own golden calves, maybe not as a structure. We don't bow down, we don't serve it, but conceptually, will realize that they and us are not so different. This is how the Rebbe explains what really happened in one of his talks. The Rebbe explains that of course they had faith in God. In fact, they had such a deep relationship with God, a relationship that wouldn't dissipate just within 40 days. But this was the problem. God was too big for them. They realized the reality of God. They realized that God is this infinite, all-powerful creature whose presence is good when you saw it, but it's very hard to relate to on a day-to-day human level, that they figured we need something tangible. We are physical, finite human beings. If we can somehow take that whole relationship with God and concentrate it on something that I understand, something that makes sense to me, then I can serve. But to serve a God, to serve an idea, to commit to the idea that although I may know is true, but is abstract, it's spiritual, it's in a sense detached from my real life, it's very difficult for us to do. So they made the golden calf to kind of concentrate that entire intensity of the spiritual experience into something finite, something tangible. And my friends, we do the same. We do the same, and we have the same challenge and struggle. We witness miracles. Every morning we wake up, we feel new life, the miracle of being alive. But yet, we don't commit. We're scared. We don't want to be committed to something that's abstract, something that's detached from our life. We believe in God. But is it that real that it has to impact the way I live my life? God is great. God is infinite. Judaism is great. Does that mean the way I conduct myself in my finite life? What's the connection? There's a disconnect. So we build our own golden calves, our own ideas of spirituality and God that make it more comfortable to us, that make it more connected to our reality. So you may ask, what's wrong? Sounds good. You're taking the great intensity of this experience and finding real terms and making it tangible. That's a great thing to do. What's wrong? What was the mistake? Why was the golden calf such a tragedy? And this is the answer. And the answer is because it mistakes what our faith is about. It makes a huge error about what our relationship with God is about. Our relationship with God and real connectedness to the spiritual truth of Judaism is not to reduce the intensity of the godly experience into the human reality, but on the contrary, to expand the ability of the human into a greater reality than themselves. When you have a relationship with God, you can either bring God into a little golden calf, or you can expand yourself into the infinite powers of God. God offers us in this relationship abilities and powers that are greater than finite human experiences. The question is, what do we want? Do we want to remain focused in the finiteness of our life, or do we want to expand ourselves to the greatness of life, the things that are greater to ourselves? And this has a very practical application. I want to, in real life terms, in our life, we experience many different things. We have negative experiences and positive experiences. We have the blessings that we have in our life, and we have the challenges and the struggles. And many times, unfortunately, we allow the struggles and the challenges to define who we are and to overshadow the blessings and the great things about ourselves, as opposed to the other way around. Take your blessings and the great things about you and allow it to uplift you out of the darker spots. It's the same question, the same challenge. Are we going to define ourselves by the smallest, lowest denominator of who we are, by the negative and the challenges? Are we going to give ourselves and inspire ourselves to be by the best and the blessings and be positive? We all have struggles. It's been a hard year. It's still a hard time. We're still not sure how long this is going to take, but we're alive. We have blessings. There are great things in our lives. Let that define you and uplift you, as opposed to the other way around. And that's the issue of the golden calf. The issue of the golden calf is the Jewish people took this great opportunity and mistook it to reduce it to something very finite instead of seeing it the other way around. And this message of the golden calf really teaches us about where we are now. Because Purim and Passover are two completely opposite types of experiences. Passover is a miracle. Exodus, Jewish people break out of slavery. They break through all their challenges and barriers. The sea is split. Woo, life is good. We see the hand of God. We're living on this fantastic life. The hand of God, miracles are visible to us. Purim is my holiday. Purim is, well, besides the fact that I was born on Purim, Purim is a complete opposite. The story of Purim, let's put it this way, the story of Passover that we celebrate took 7 days. 7 days. The story of Purim that we read in the Megillah, I know it's a long Megillah. It's maybe a half hour, 40 minutes. 14 years. I know it's 14 years. To reduce down to 40 minutes is not that bad. It took over 14 years from the beginning to the end. When you were alive during the story of Purim, you had no clue. Queen Esther had no clue what was going on. Queen Esther, is my greatest hero. The reason why Esther is my greatest biblical hero, of course, I can relate to what she's going through. She's living in a certain reality, and she's not connecting the dots. And that's why it's such a challenge for her to go to Ahasuerus, to the king, until Mordechai tells her, these are the words of the Megillah that resonate in my mind and hopefully in your minds. What are the words? Esther, open your eyes. Realize that maybe this whole story over the last 8, 9 years, 5 years that in her life is so you can go to the king and save your people. Esther was living in a life that the dots weren't connecting. And in many of our lives, the dots don't connect. What happened when we were kids and we're adults, young adults, growing older kids, so many things going on in our life. We don't realize it's the hand of God. Purim is the message that it doesn't always have a miracle. The hand of God isn't always in the miracle of splitting of sea. The hand of God is what happens when you wake up in the morning and everything that happens in your day and every day of your life. These are two types of attitudes. A person who sees the visible hand of God, the tzaddik, the righteous person, faith is absolute. And then there's the person who doesn't see the hand of God in miracles, but learns to appreciate the hand of God in every moment of life, in the miracle of life. And here the question is, what kind of Jew are you? Are you the Jew who feels God even in the ordinary? Are you able to lift yourself up higher than the finiteness of life and feel the blessing of God in every moment of your life? Or are you the one who needs, or a Passover Jew, who you need that visible experience? And one is not right and one is not wrong. Judaism celebrates Passover and Pesach because both are important. What kind of Jew are you? What defines you? Purim and Pesach just teaches you what you have to work on. If you're a Purim Jew and you appreciate the hand of God in every moment of life, work towards being a Passover Jew. Get that extra injection through a more intense experience on Shabbat, on holidays, or at an hour of Torah study. We need to have that boost. We need to have that strong feeling. Are you the type of Jew that gets a kick, really enjoys coming to services, really enjoys the Seder, really enjoys the Hamatashin? Learn how to bring that down and find that greatness in every moment of your life. And then we will be living a life that is so important. I want to conclude with a beautiful story that I heard recently. This is stories with a senior Lubavitch Shliach, rabbi in Florida, who had a very long ongoing, I would say, relationship and study session with a Brazilian Jew who was more liberal and had more politically left ideas. He was actually a very good friend with former Prime Minister Shimon Peres. But they had a relationship, and this Brazilian friend tells the Lubavitch rabbi, he says, you know what? I don't have a problem in believing in God. My issue is more about believing that God really is involved in the details of life. Why would a great infinite God be involved in the details of life? Right? Almost like the golden calf. God is too big to be contained, to be connected to this. We need something else, something more practical. And this is where the conversations always left. They had a great relationship, spoke about God, but he didn't believe in the what we call hashgacha pratis, the divine providence of God, how God is engaged in all the details of life. One year, he travels to Connecticut, and he has to be in Connecticut for Yom Kippur. I guess they went to some resort, and he brought along a friend of his who was a cardiologist. And it was the day before Yom Kippur. Somebody keeps buzzing me. I hope it's not about this. And it's the day before Yom Kippur. They get an address of a local traditional Orthodox synagogue. And it was late, so they couldn't really get directions. They thought they knew how they're going, but they got lost. And they see a young Jewish man with a yarmulke, a kippah, at the corner wanting to cross the street. So they go to him, probably knows where all the Orthodox synagogues are. He says, do you know where the synagogue is? He says, I don't know where this synagogue is, but I know there's another synagogue right down this road. You can go there. Well, they didn't have a choice. It was late, so they figured they'll go to not to the synagogue that they thought they were going to. They went to a different synagogue. Kol Nidre begins, and this doctor, this Brazilian fellow and his cardiologist friend are sitting there. They don't know anyone. And in the middle of Kol Nidre, there's a big commotion in the synagogue. What's the commotion? There's a fellow in the crowd that had a heart attack, collapsed. And had there not been a cardiologist, it's hard to believe there was another cardiologist, but had this cardiologist not been there, he wouldn't have made it until the ambulance came. So this guy was there, brought to a place. He wasn't going to go to the synagogue, went to there, and he brought his friend, the cardiologist, who happened to save this person's life. Next year, Yom Kippur, they like the shul, they go back, and the wife of this person who survived, who had the heart attack, goes over to this Brazilian man and his friend, and he says, I always wanted to thank you, and you know how much we appreciate the fact that you saved my husband's life. But let me tell you another tidbit of this story. And they tell this fellow that when you told me that you met a young man at the light who directed you to the synagogue for Kol Nidre services, I'm very curious who that person was. And the woman, the wife of the husband of the man who survived, tells the Brazilian cardiologist, do you know who that boy was at the red light? That was actually my son, who decided to meet up with friends and go to even a different synagogue. So the fact that my son was at that light going somewhere else where he wasn't planning to, meets you and sends you here, it's an amazing miracle. The cardiologist turns to his Brazilian friend. He says, well, now you have a good story to tell your rabbi about divine providence. See, let's not get caught up in words. Let's not get caught up in words. Am I an agnostic? I'm an atheist. I believe in God or not. Let's pay attention to really what's going on. When a person pays attention to life, there's no doubt that we see a greater power that moves things along towards a different direction. Call it what you want. That's what Torah calls God. But don't get stuck in the words. What kind of Jew should you be? Be a Jew who doesn't get caught up in the word or the definition, but who observes everything going on in their life and connects to that truth. That is the exercise of being a Jew. That is what Purim is. That is what Passover will be. That's what every moment and every ritual is about. Helping us focus, to observe the blessings of life, to observe the presence of God in every moment of our life. So we don't reduce and abstract God into whatever idol that we want to create, but we elevate ourselves to realize that we're not as finite as we really are. Things aren't as negative as they really appear to be. We can choose to look at ourselves finite. We can choose to focus on the negative. But what kind of Jew are you? Be a Jew who looks deeper, who has that perspective, to elevate themselves and everything around them. I believe if you work on yourself and you begin to take this approach, you won't only have a great Shabbos, you won't only have a wonderful preparation for Passover and experience of Passover, you'll have so much more blessing in everything that you do. Have a wonderful Shabbos. And as we have done in the past, if those in the community want to wish each other good Shabbos, since you're not in shul, we'll go around and whoever posts the next few minutes, I'll share it with. Let's start Judy Feiner. Yeah, Judy Feiner, Shabbat Shalom, good Shabbos to you. We have here Ken Rubin. Ken Rubin, Shabbat Shalom to you as well. Daniel Jacob, good Shabbos, and see you tomorrow. We got a deal. Got a date, as they say. I see here a note from Anita. Anita, yes, I'm so happy to be back. Have a good Shabbos to you. Andy Cantor, good Shabbos to you. And thank you for wishing the community a good Shabbos. I know sometimes it takes some time from when you post until it comes on my screen. So let me just remind everyone, go to the website. Come back to their greetings in a second. Don't forget our website, jewishcenter.info. Monday we'll have all our Passover Seder options to go. You can get a matzah. We can get you just a Seder plate if you need, filled with all the things, so you don't have to worry about the shank bone and the maror. We'll just deliver a pre-filled Seder plate. We're going to have options for menus, connecting you to different kosher caterers that will drop off things at our center. There's a lot going on. And of course, my closest project, if you know someone who can't afford or who needs a Seder delivered to them, let us know. If you want to volunteer to deliver, let us know. This will all be on the website. Just remember. Let's go back to some of the greetings. Who do we have here? Yeah, Harris. Thanks, Rabbi. That was one. I found this fine message. Shabbat Shalom to one and all. Thank you, Harris. Sherry, Klimo, Shevlin, Shabbat Shalom to all. Thanks for see you tomorrow. Yep, we'll be there. Please God. Estelle Rabinowitz, good Shabbos to all. Good Shabbos from you. Susan Cohen says good Shabbos. And hi, Anita. Oh, look at this. And we will conclude, unless someone else pops up, Joyce Rubin, wishing us all good Shabbos and good Shabbos to Joyce as well. So to all my dear friends, I will see you next week at 4 o'clock on Friday afternoon. And we will start probably not this week, but the week after with some pre-Passover inspirations, guidance, and instructions. Stay tuned. Everybody have a wonderful Shabbos. Let me remember how we do this. And Shabbat Shalom.